Hi everyone, my name's Simon and welcome to Rendering Teardown section. Today we'll be dealing with this new rendering with some interesting stuff regarding composition and focus points, so let's get started. So first thing I want to talk about is a little bit about composition mainly. I think like the overall project is interesting and there's definitely stuff that could be really interesting in terms of lighting in this setup. So I'm going to try to be all quite thorough and understandable. So the thing here, I think that is a little bit of an issue here is the fact that the composition is a little bit unbalanced because we have things happening here and we have things happening here, and there's no real hierarchy in the image, and this is kind of a problem. I think what could be interesting is to actually, because basically the point of interest in the whole project is obviously this sort of oasis thing, or whatever you call it, because it's in the center of the sort of communal area, and this leads to all these sort of classrooms or whatever that is, but I think that's classrooms. So I think it would be more interesting to actually sort of center the image on this. How would you do it is quite I think straightforward. I would actually do some sort of like if I were to redo the whole thing, I would be doing like a frontal view with your oasis standing right in the middle, your classrooms on the side, and I think something that's happening here, since we have someone coming this way and a little bit of lighting, is that we could actually get some sort of direct lighting from this side here. So, and then you have this sort of corrugated ceiling. So behind this really awful sketch is the idea that we should focus on this. And the other thing I think that is a little bit lacking in this image is the direct lighting, because one thing that is interesting is that well, obviously we are in a really harsh climate in terms of lighting and sunlight and things like that, and we sort of feel it here, but it's still too a little bit too subtle, a little bit too, yeah, just too subtle. So what I would do, if we were to refer to this sort of nice drawing, and if we have something like, if we can see on the outside here, that would be really interesting, because we could get some sort of bloom effects around the opening and get some direct light coming in. This way we could really have a discrepancy between the inside and the outside and get like a good idea of the warmth, if I may say, which is something that is really interesting. And this is like even more interesting because you would have like a strong contrast between the harsh lighting getting in and this sort of a watery area here. So in terms of composition, that would be, I guess, quite strong. And the thing is, we do have like these structure elements here that would be, so if I go back to this, you would have the structure elements sort of leading towards your water element in the middle. So this is not really legible anymore, but I guess you get the idea. The other, so yeah, lighting in climate. So this is, I think, quite interesting. The other thing you have to keep in mind though, and I think that's something the problem we have here in terms of population, is that there's, well, a couple of problems here. The first one is the size and the scaling. As you can see here, if I put the some sort of eye level at the eye level of this lady here, we're like not even half, like just half of the size of the tutor here. So what we want is actually to have all the eye level to be at the same height. So basically this lady here is supposed to be a little bit up. So that would be something like, if I do that, she should be somewhere around here. So you get the idea. And so something like this would be a little bit more right. And what I was referring to before, if I wanted to just do like a quick explanation, is to actually, say we have like that would be interesting to have something like that. It's not going to look good here, but so that you get the idea, is to have like your light coming in this way and having some sort of like, even you could get some sort of God rays inside, something like that, something like this. But it doesn't look good here because the angle is not right. But if you were in some sort of frontal view, this would be quite interesting, I think. And you have to see the outside, because otherwise like you get the idea but it doesn't really make sense. But so that you get the like what I was talking about. And the idea here is also to emphasize the differences between this area and this one. Of course you have to add the shadows of the lady here. Regarding shadows as well, we have a little bit of a problem here, because obviously when you're inside a building, you won't have like proper cast shadows, because, well, or at least not as strong as they would be. So you cannot really get this sort of shadowing inside a building. This lady here should have something, because, well, she's in the sun now. And so that's the first thing, cast shadows. And second thing is the core shadow, which also have to be like, these guys should be much darker, because if I put my filter here, you can see these guys here are way too bright compared to the overall setting of the room. In terms of like the overall image, we do have a little bit of a problem with the saturation. Here you can see the wood elements are extremely saturated, so that's why you would need this guy to desaturate it a little bit. So you can see here, maybe you can make it a little bit less. Whoops, less there. And the other thing is the water element here, which is way too bright, as you can see there. This element here is like way brighter than the ground here, so be careful with the lighting. Final thing I think is, but it's just the details, but as you can see, this has not been rendered, so you have to be a little bit careful. But basically you can still sort of make it a little bit prettier if you use, say, something like that, because basically the blades of grass here have to this is not looking good. They would have to go a little bit over the pond here, so you would do something like this, I guess, just to make it a little bit better. You can even use more interesting brushes, such as things like that, maybe like that, just to get more more interesting stuff. Anyway, you get the idea. The other thing as well is to be a little bit careful with basically the mapping or the actual movement or motion happening with the falling water here, because obviously we'd have some sort of splashes and stuff like that. The thing is, if, as I mentioned, the idea is to put this element in the center of the composition, you'll have to add the extra details that are interesting here. So I guess that's it. But as you see, there's like a couple of adjustments to do and obviously re-rendering it, but the overall image is good. Like the base render is nice. It's just a matter of composition that will dramatically change the feel, I think, and make it a little bit more interesting in terms of scenario and storytelling. So yeah, obviously you've learned interesting stuff today, and I'll see you in the next Teardown video. See you guys. Bye.
Tonight,